Good afternoon. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Tuesday. All right, to kick things off with the business day's big story, Monde Nissan's record-breaking $1 billion float debuting on the stock market, but day one performance of the instant noodle maker was a bit undercooked as it ended the day on the downside, dropping close to 0.2%, 0.15% to be exact, from its offer price of 13 pesos and 50 a share. It ended Monday at 13 pesos and 48 centavos a piece. But what's in it for Monde Nissin Wireless now? Well, they're setting their sights on expanding their fake meat unit in the US, a market already penetrated by heavyweights like Beyond Meat. So what else are they cooking? Let's find out from their CEO in this interview with Bloomberg TV's David Ingles.
Pandemic, a lot of companies are trying to scale back the investment and things like this. But we are a bit different. We are among this company. Despite of this pandemic, we are still doing quite okay. But in addition to that, also we are part of the companies that we have to expand a lot during this period because the portfolio that we have, which is alternative protein, is poised to grow exponentially. So we don't want to miss the opportunity. We want to have the fund ready. We are going to use it immediately for our capacity expansion. That's why, albeit this pandemic, we are still seeing this is a good time to pursue this IPO.
Why that specific amount? Why not raise more?
I think the use of proceeds is very important here. Okay. With the amount we are going to collect during this IPO, that's at the sweet spot of the amount. We can, use that majority for the capex, and at the same time using it for paying down the loan. The amount was just, at the sweet spot. We just do not want to raise too much at this point, right?
I'm sure you and your team have an assumption of how quickly you think this alternative meat business and protein will grow over the next 5 years. Could you give us an indication of what that annual growth clip might actually look like?
Definitely, David. If you look at the trend today, this is a mega trend in the world. Whatever research that you are going to look at, everything is pointing into exponential growth in this category. So we are less than 1% today in this space. I mean, the protein space. We are less than 1%. So 99% is the traditional protein. The addressable market here is huge. It's got $1.4 trillion US. So everyone is predicting in the next 10 years, this sector, the alternative protein, will grow from currently less than 1% to become 10% in the next 10 years. So 10 years, 10 times. That's exponential growth.
To clarify, that's 10% of the market, or is that 10% compounded annual growth?
10% of the total protein market. So 1% to become 10% in 10 years, that's 1,000% or 10 times in 10 years. Exponential growth, really.
Longer term, you eventually see this new part of the business then taking up the majority of the overall revenue pie for Monde Nissin.
You are asking about the other business portfolio like instant noodles. What are we going to do with this? With that kind of aspiration, we are very, very serious in this commitment. We are going to improve the health proposition of instant noodle to make it much healthier, to make it more sustainable in the future. As we speak today, we have this kind of technology already. So we are launching already in the Philippines since a few months ago. And moving forward, we are launching also in other territory who we feel that we have the right to win.
Outside of your home market, of course, whether that's this new alternative protein business or your traditional businesses and brands, talk to us about your plans outside the Philippines and how fast, how quickly do you think that part of the business is going to grow?
So alternative protein currently is being done in UK. So we are going to protect the leadership in UK. We are the dominant market leaders there. Next will be USA. We are going to focus our effort into USA. We feel that USA is so far the fastest growing market in this alternative protein. And then 2 years from now, maybe, we're going to move to Asia. If you notice, for example, the government of China has announced in the next 10 years, they're going to reduce the consumption of meat by 50%. So it's a huge market here due to the population, right? China, India, and countries like this. It's a huge population, but that's a bit, maybe 2 or 3 years from now.
All right, again, Monde Nissin on its maiden day here, closing in the red, down by as much as 0.15% now at 13 pesos and 48 centavos rather, coming up from their offer price of 13 pesos and 50 centavos a share. But it's not the only one. The index today is flat, but leaning on the downside here. Local stocks now at 6,627.43. While there might not be much movement, what's striking today, it's actually the third straight day of net foreign buying with purchases at 341.4 million pesos. That's despite restrictions in the NCR Plus bubble being somehow eased from GCQ with heightened restrictions to just restrictions. But taking a look at local stocks here, the day's biggest decliner is Voitis Equity Ventures. That is down by 3.5%. That's after it said that it's set to issue the third tranche of its 30 billion peso bond, consisting of a 5 billion peso primary offer with oversubscription of up to 5 billion pesos. But really, when you try to take a look at how our stocks have performed, it's really the retailers and the restaurants that are down today amid the easing of restrictions. Here you have the likes of Robinson's Retails, that's down by 2.9%. Jollibee as well, also in the red, declining 2.3%. But mall operators edged higher today. You have the likes of Ayala Land, that is up 1.75%. Also in the green is SM Prime, edging higher by 1.7%, as well as the likes of Mega World and Robinson's Land. The Labor Department is pushing to have work-from-home employees be included in the A4 priority group alongside workers physically reporting to work. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello made the appeal to the IATF, saying work-from-home employees still go to their offices from time to time to accomplish certain tasks. Meanwhile, the request to allow leisure travel between the NCR Plus areas and other destinations under modified general community quarantine has been granted. IATF resolution number 118 allows point-to-point travel, meaning no side trips between NCR Plus and MGCQ areas. Travelers below 18 years old and those above 65 years old will need to submit a negative swab test result as a requirement. The Tourism Department welcomes the decision as a step towards the recovery of local tourism. The new guidelines will be in effect starting today until June 15. At 89%, Filipinos still prefer prepaid consumer services, at least according to Ding's Global Prepaid Index. What might this mean for the potential of prepaid fintech in the Philippines? Let's find out from top-up platform Ding's Chief Commercial Officer, Rupert. We speak to him from London, if I'm not mistaken. Good morning, Ding, to your time at least, in your time at least.
Good afternoon, Jes.
Okay, so what numbers were you able to crunch up in your latest GPI, and what do these numbers say about the Filipinos' prepaid consumption habits? And is that encouraging enough for you to at least lengthen your stay here in the local market?
Absolutely. We surveyed, Jes, around 7,000 customers, or not customers, respondents across 9 different markets to really understand what was happening in the prepaid market, especially considering the challenges that the world has faced during the last COVID pandemic. What we found specifically around the Philippines is that despite actually the drop in remittance, the small drop in remittance, what we've seen is incredibly strong growth in the mobile top-up business. This is where, for example, an overseas Filipino worker can send load balance back home to someone either on Smart or on Globe, and have that delivered instantly. And we've seen over 80% growth in the last 12 months coming through into the Philippines.
Mm-hmm. Now, also, can you give us an idea, nuance that a bit for us? Where exactly is the majority of the prepaid market here in the country? Is it still mostly rural and at least the unbanked market?
No, absolutely not. We see the Filipino market overall is over 95%, I believe, as a prepaid market, and that's a shift that we're seeing actually, Jes, not just in the Philippines or traditional prepaid markets. The idea of control and of using what you want to use as opposed to what may be given to you on a contract. That's something that we're seeing on a more global basis.
Mm-hmm. So it's not an isolated case here in the Philippines, but what exactly do you think is driving that here in the local market?
I think one of the key things around the international top-up market is Philippines really over-indexed in the support of the family and community and friends. And we saw that really come out in the global prepaid index. So even though remittance may be dropping down, actually people were continuing to send international load back home to speak to the family and friends. And that was really strong, came out. Filipinos over-indexed versus all the other different markets that we looked at, including around Southeast Asia, in support of their family and friends at home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, what's the level of penetration here in the market? I mean, especially we're talking about a location here, a market geography that's not really that adept when it comes to fintech.
Yeah, I think the key thing that Ding as a platform does is we have a direct-to-consumer proposition, and we can also work through partners. But what it means then is that whether you are sitting in a rural location in the Philippines, actually the person sending that load balance may well be working in the UAE or Saudi Arabia or America. And actually for them, they are able to access the same options and prices that are available in market so that they can deliver a top up to maybe their grandmother who may not be that au fait with technology, but they can deliver that within a couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you encourage more Filipinos to actually avail of the service? Are you in a way willing, or at least have you already come up with programs to further incentivize them?
Absolutely. So we've been in the Philippines for over 10 years. We work very closely with the likes of Globe and Smart, and we work closely with those teams to deliver almost sort of exclusive or unique offers. So this might be increased load balance or increased data bundles, which are then incentivized for those overseas Filipino worker to buy and send home to their loved ones.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, also, a good thing that you mentioned about Globe and Smart. I just want to talk about really your synergy here with our top mobile providers here, telcos, and at the same time, considering that they do have their own platforms like GCash and PayMaya. How, in a way, are you competing, or maybe at least working in synergy with these other platforms?
I think at the moment, really, it's working in synergy. The market within fintech is growing very quickly. And that shift to online, the likes of GCash, we'll see whether the strong growth rates due to the pandemic continues, or whether the retail sectors, which were traditionally preference for consumers, will come back in a strong way. I think one of the key things that international top-up does, though, Jes, is it drives that engagement. If you think around the stories around super apps in the region and being able to deliver multiple services, one of the other things that came out within the global prepaid index is that this is not just around load and top-up there. People like to use multiple different prepaid services. So that might be paying bills, it might be a prepaid card, and we've seen an increase globally in the provision of those prepaid financial instruments as well.
How do you think then is the service a game changer, especially in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic?
You have to be connected, whether you are in the provinces or you're in Manila. Actually, if you want to participate in the economy now, you have to have some access to the internet. And I think importantly, whether you are sophisticated or have access to that for whatever reasons, if you have somebody who can send that load balance to you from overseas, and this is why it's stayed up and we've seen such strong growth, is it's not the same amount as if you're doing remittance. You're thinking maybe 500 pesos, under sort of $10. That sort of balance, though, back in the Philippines can really make the difference between being online or not.
What then do you think will be the scenario for this sector post-pandemic, if and when we do come to that?
I think we're going to continue to see the sector grow. We estimate the international market will be around $11 billion by about 2025. We're going to be going out to do a second run at the global prepaid index. And those will be certainly one of those questions about how customers' preference has shifted over the last 18 months.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Again, we have Ding's Chief Commercial Officer, Rupert Shaw. Thank you, Rupert.
Thank you, Jes.
And those are the biggest stories this trading day, June 1, 2021. Catch Businessworld live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.